Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Neil Hudson-Basing. I'm the Corporate Events Manager at London South Bank University. I'm delighted to work with colleagues at British Land and beyond for a series of sessions entitled Understanding Procurement at the Canada Water Masterplan. I'm just going to take you through some virtual housekeeping before I hand over to Eleanor. So just to take you through a short statement around respect and dignity, everyone attending an LSBU event, whether in person or virtually deserves to be treated with respect, dignity and courtesy. We operate an environment built on equality, inclusion and acceptance, and believe everyone should be treated as such. Please keep the conversation kind and respectful. We reserve the right to remove those that aren't. Just to take you through the Zoom functionality, please make use of the chat box throughout today's session. In the absence of face-to-face events, it helps us to break down the virtual wall that we're all experiencing, and we value your thoughts and comments. We have enabled the Q&A box, and you can pop any questions in there. You can also upvote on the questions you most want answered by clicking the thumbs up symbol. I am about to enable closed captioning for this event, which will give you the subtitles. You can hide those if you do not wish to see them by clicking the little up arrow next to the closed captioning symbol at the bottom. That's all from me virtual housekeeping wise. I'll be in the background if you have any questions, but I'd like to hand over to my colleague Eleanor.
Good morning. Thank you, Neil, and thank you to you and the team at LSBU for helping us organise this. It's really appreciated. I'm going to share my screen, so inevitably give me a moment to just double check that that's loaded. Fab. My name is Eleanor Wright. I am head of the community team as part of Canada Water Masterplan, and I've been on the project for about 7.5 years now. So I'm here today to just give you a quick sort of 5-6 minute overview of the project. I'm aware some of you may be very familiar, some of you may not be familiar at all. So I'm just going to give you a sort of highlight of what the project involves, and then some areas to find some more information as well. I will be around for Q&A later on too, if anyone's got any more specific queries. Thank you. So yes, so sort of a bit about British Land as well for those that aren't too familiar. So British Land as an organisation, you don't need to know when we started, but I think it's quite interesting. We're a really old property company, started in 1856 with actually a very long heritage in Southwark. Many of the streets and pubs in Peckham were built by British Land, very coincidentally. We exist to create, own and manage places around the UK. Our portfolio is predominantly offices and retail, or workspaces we would now call them, but our real focus now and going forward is on mixed use campuses, spaces with multiple uses, residential, food and beverage, leisure, workspace, etc. We're also increasingly looking at life sciences and also logistics throughout the UK. Sites of ours that you may be aware of include places like Broadgate Circle, Broadgate in the City of London, Regent's Place or Paddington Central. There are office campuses, and then throughout the UK, Meadowhall Shopping Centre in Sheffield, one of the largest in the UK, is British Land as well. So, yeah, at one point we had assets from Inverness to Barnstable, and peppered throughout the country. We've got about 400 employees, which actually makes us a pretty small FTSE company. We're managing, £12 billion of assets across the UK, of which we own around 9. I think the really important bit about British Land is that we're long-term investors in the places that we own and operate. We have to make most of our money from rents as a REIT, and for Canada Water, that's no different. We have a 500-year lease in place, and we intend to be there for the long term. So we're really interested in both this initial conversation with you all, and helping us all get a better understanding of this kind of supply chain and local, the local sort of economy, but also continuing that conversation over the period of time. So Canada Water Masterplan, hopefully you would have heard a little bit about the project. It's a fairly substantial one. At a site level, it's the redevelopment of Surrey Quay Shopping Centre, the Printworks, the Leisure Park and the former Royal Hive Police Station, and the intent is to create a new town centre for Canada Water. And we really want this to be the most sustainable generation in the UK. That's our aim. It's a partnership with Southwark Council, and We've been involving kind of local community in shaping that plan since 2014, and with over 5,000 people having been named individuals being part of that. A hybrid application was approved May last year, and that had detailed first plots and a master plan, which I'll show you in some subsequent slides. For those of you that are close by, you'll see that enabling works are already underway. Galdris are on this call today and have been carrying out our enabling works contracts, and we expect construction to be over 10 to 15 years. So as I say, this is a long-term, hopefully, conversation with you all as local businesses, as well as a long-term project. And I won't go through these in detail, but just sort of pick out some of the highlights or the headlines from the project. As I say, it's a new town centre. There's quite a significant amount of workspace proposed, for space for around 20,000 people working there and in the shops as well. Obviously, new shops and restaurants, space for a health centre and a police hub. Generating much more additional spend in the area, new leisure centre and tree planting, and about 35% of the master plan is public space. And across all of this, linking back to that sort of ambition for us to be the most sustainable generation in the UK, we want to ensure that we are enhancing the local and wider economy, and that we're focusing on employing and training local people as well. And I can happily talk more about that if there's any specific questions. This is the outline master plan. It doesn't look very exciting. To orient you, you see Canada Water in the top left-hand column and Surrey Quay Station. So top left-hand side, and bottom left-hand, you can see Surrey Quays, and then Canary Wharf would be obviously to your right. It will create a new town centre with a new high street that you can see down the sort of spine of the building, running across the edge of the dock, and the areas in purple are those that are the first detailed plots and the contractors' rates that you'll also hear from shortly on this call, carrying out in contract for the construction of A1, and then we've got A2, K1 as well. So lots of plots coming forward both now, and then we're developing RMAs for the remainder of the outline. And these are just illustrative views. The illustrative view you can see on the left-hand side is of the dock office courtyard backing onto A1, which is the building that Waits are involved with. And then the town square is much later down the line, where the current Tesco is. And the Tesco would move, you could probably just catch it in the background there. So this is sort of headlines. My colleagues from Waits and Galdris will talk much more detail about construction, but I think some of the principles of how we as British Land are approaching the construction of Canada Water Master Plan is that we really want to build a genuine long-term partnership with our supply chain, our main contractors and main tier 2 contractors within this, and we expect our main contractors to do the same with their supply chain, and we know that they do and take that very seriously. Typically, we enter two-stage procurement processes. The buildings are quite substantial, but that's not exclusively. And we're in obviously PCSA with main contractors for our first detailed plots. And you'll be hearing from them in these sessions. We really want to ensure that the benefits of the master plan and the activity and those coming to Canada Water to build this, but also in the future to work here, to benefit the wider area. And we know that we have to be proactive in doing that. We can't just expect that. So we ask all of our contractors to set out a community and skills plan, which is pretty broad, looking at how they will deliver and contribute to our social ambitions, including employment and business, as part of the Canada Water Master Plan. And we have specific Section 106 obligations regarding local supply. I think importantly, we want to look in a more sophisticated way, I would say, at how we can build the local economy through our activities. So we also ask our main contractors to look at how their presence and activities can help local businesses to grow, and that might be capacity building or mentoring or sharing skills, etc., etc. We've kind of hit the ground running program wise. We're looking to get on site in the summer, and so we're kind of all hands to the tiller with getting everyone through the PCSA process and up on site. So these ideas are still, we're working together as a team to develop some of them, and we're really keen to hear your feedback both on these sessions and to help us shape how we can best work with yourselves and others in the borough. So that's me. This is, I think the slides will be shared afterwards. As I say, headlines are that we're starting on site with the first detailed plots shortly, and there'll be further RMAs, so planning applications in for the details of future plots and construction coming on in subsequent years and throughout. You can get much more information on our website. It's a big and complex project, so I'd encourage you to have a flick around our website. Please do follow us on our social media channels, whichever one works for you, or just sign up to our mailing list by emailing the email address there, because we'd really love to keep in touch with you for updates more generally. And as I say, I'm here for any questions, I think after the main event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eleanor. If anyone does have any questions, you can pop those in the chat box and we'll get round to them shortly. We would like to invite our next speaker to join us. We'd like to welcome John Guerin, Business Development Manager from Goldris, to join us for his presentation. Hi there, John. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, so hello. My name is John Guerin, Business Development Manager at Goldris. Really happy to be here today to talk you through our procurement processes and what we're currently doing on the Canada Water Masterplan. So, bear with me, technical issues sharing my screen. Yeah, so I believe you all should be able to see this now.
We can.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so as Eleanor was saying, Canada Water Plan, planning permission granted in May 2020, a new town centre for everyone to enjoy, 10 to 15-year project, which will see complete redevelopment of the area, delivering new workspaces, high street, new homes, leisure centre, sixth form health centre, and so on and so forth. So in terms of this facility, I'm going to mainly focus on procurement of packages and what we offer as we work with British Land. So first off is what is procurement? So obviously, as we probably all know, it's just an acquisition process that we use to secure services, goods, and work from external services. There's a pretty, like as with everything, there is a standard life cycle for procurement. So obviously, it's the same as a normal day-to-day life. Before we actually consider buying anything, first off, we need to identify the needs. What do we actually need? Why do we need it? And then once we decide what we need, who do we want to get it from? So we research and identify the suppliers. So it's even the same as you research, you identify. Then once you identify some of your suppliers that you wish to start communicating with, you make contact with them and you establish a communication chain. Then as you get more down into the nitty gritty, you can start to negotiate terms of services or goods or work that they're supplying. Then once this is after happening, you can then assess your supplier's services to see if they will be capable of delivering or providing what you actually wish to procure. And if that is all acceptable, then we would be happy, the supplier is happy, so then order will be placed and payment would get over. But that's a very, very brief summary. But whenever we work with anyone with a procurement within our supply chain, we always provide checks on our supply chain. So the question is, why would you ever perform checks? So we perform checks to ensure that the supply of goods are the requested quality and standard, just to make sure that first off they meet our company needs and the customer requirements. These might be very specific customer requirements, i.e. a particular standard of safety, the business critical objectives, so on and so forth. So within our system, in order to get approved, prospective suppliers would need to be assessed and we get these assessed by getting them to complete something we call a PQQ, or a pre-qualification questionnaire. And with the PQQ, you will either be satisfactory or unsatisfactory, depending on how you answer the questions throughout it. So within this PQQ, it's what do these checks require? What information do we ask from our supply chain and so on? So the PQQ, we do ask for a lot of information depending on what you are. For example, if you were a design consultant or a material supplier or a subcontractor, there would be different questions that would be required of you to ask. So just for example, a few standard ones is obviously we're always interested in like insurance cover you have, your safety history, your financial standing, scope of activity. Might also go on towards your previous projects that you've worked on, previous clients, client testimonials, and this would then allow us to get like a bit of a better overview of what your business is as a whole. And so for our material and PQQs, we have an online system where we get members of supply chain or prospective suppliers to complete this form. Then this information comes back to us and it's evaluated here by our commercial team, so we can see which one might potentially be the best fit for us. So what happens next? So like after the PQQ is complete, what's the general stage for procurement? So first off is when we decide that we want work to be carried out by some of our competent subcontractors. So this is what would happen after the PQQ stage. So if you're after submitting a PQQ and you're after being deemed as satisfactory, this would then allow you to be potentially receive a tender that we would send out to you. So at issue stage, we send out our tenders to between 3 and 5 competent subcontractors, material suppliers, supply chain, so on. After this has been sent out, we do, depending on the size of the tender that we send out to our supply chain, there's a different amount of time that can be allowed to carry stuff out. It can vary from 1 week to 2 weeks to 3 months, all depending on the size of it. And during this time frame, we will accept tender queries on any questions you might have based on the documents that you've received. Once you have completed the tender, you will then send it back to us, and then we will analyze it against each bid. And so if we have 3 or 4 people who was sent at issue stage, then at analysis, we will then refine down based on what we think is the best offering for our company, be it via safety record, construction methodology, price, so on and so forth. So at this stage, we may reduce the number of parties from 5 down to 3. Then, following on from this, there is a post-tender meeting. So the final tender queries are discussed, and at this stage, the last 2 participants, they might be given the chance to offer what we call a last and final offer. So before we would make our decision, there would be a chance for both parties to revise their bid. Then subsequent to this, we would be after deciding who our preferred supplier subcontractor would be. So then we would award the tender. And this would happen in 2 ways. So first off, there would be an award meeting to finalize the contract terms and conditions, where the final contract details are discussed, that the contract will be issued. And then once the contract is issued, we would arrange a site meeting to arrange physical start on site or material delivery, and so on and so forth. So I think that's basically a brief overview of our procurement process from start to finish. So if anybody has any questions or anything like that, or else I'll be around until the end anyway as well.
Thank you very much, John. There are no questions at present, but we will come back to you later if any pop up. So thank you so much. We'd like to now move on to our next presentation, and I'd like to invite Jim Watts, Operations Director for Weights, and Nick Hamlin, Supply Chain Manager for Weights, to join me on screen for their presentation. We can hear you, just can't see you just yet. There we go. Oh, we've lost you.
Oh, hang on. Cancel that. Let's start that. There we go.
There we go back. Cool. I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
That one. Or that one. That's all. Share. And that one.
See the screen?
We can't see the screen and we can't see you.
Okay.
Okay. Share. Entire screen. Share. The video keeps dropping off.
There you go. So you just need to bring up your presentation. There you go.
Right. Great. That's fantastic.
We got there. Sorry, we can't really hear you. So yeah. It's slightly better. It's fading in and out a little.
Let's try it.
I can't hear very much, to be honest.
Technology.
I think it's because you haven't got headphones on, but you also, if you're in a large room and there's two of you, that might have something to do with it.
Okay, is that any better?
Much better.
Much. Cool. Okay, I'll put a set of headphones on and a microphone. I'll hand over to Nick at the right time. So good morning, everybody. My apologies for that bumpy start. Every relationship starts with a bumpy start. So my name is Jim Watts. I'm the Operations Director for Weights Construction. I've been with the business for 25 years. Can't find anybody better to work for. So yeah, no, it's a good start. I've been involved with British Land and this scheme since November 2018, and fairly soon we hope to be starting on the A1 project. So just in terms of our presentation today, we'll start off with an introduction. I'll do a weights overview, a bit on our guiding framework, supply chain requirements, Nick will do for us, social value, and then next steps and questions. So if I go to the next slide. Fantastic. Weights, who are we? We are a wholly family owned business. We're one of the largest private owned construction companies in the UK. We only operate in the UK. We've done a little bit in Abu Dhabi, but predominantly it's everything we do is in the UK. We're on the fourth generation of the Weights family. The way the family see their business, they see themselves as custodians of the business, ready to hand over to the next generation. So the handsome looking gentleman up on the top left was Norman Weights, who founded the company. We have a history of building homes in the UK. The boom after the Second World War, the little photograph, the black and white photograph in the middle was when it was before my time, but during the Second World War, we built the Mulberry Harbour for the D-Day landing. Yes, we've been involved with all sorts of stuff throughout the UK for a long, long time. Next slide, please, Nick. In terms of who we are, we have what we call our guiding framework, which is it sort of sets out the parameters in which we work. So the heart of it is about creating tomorrow together. Everything we do, we try and do in collaboration. We're only as good as the sum of all the parts. We have three basic sides to what sets our basic principles: our goals, our behaviours, and our purpose. So in terms of our goals, it's about being sustainable, it's about being trusted and progressive. Our behaviours, which is it's as strong a part as any other of the sides. We do care about what we're doing. We work really hard to be fair. And then this bit about innovation and looking for a better way. The construction industry, despite how it may seem to the outside world, is an ever-changing beast. Then our purpose. Together, we look to inspire better ways of creating the places, communities, and businesses tomorrow. And I have to say, this ties in so well with British Land's aspirations around what to do. And part of the reason that we're here today is this, involving the communities. Construction is it is an intrusive process by its very nature, and I think if we can become a positive force within the community for the periods that we're there, then that will suit everybody much better and have a much better outcome. So at Waits, we're committed to leaving a lasting legacy in the communities where we live and work, and we believe that demonstrating business can be a force for good. The construction industry, by its very nature, offers so many opportunities for so many individuals as well as companies. I think if we can prove we're a worthy partner to British Land for the duration of the 10 to 15-year build process, then we've got a real opportunity to take a long-term view of how we can integrate with the communities and create some real help to those areas on growing those businesses and those individuals. Next thing. As a business, just some stats. We are a big business. The group, we turn over 1.45 billion. I think it was actually 1.6 billion pounds last year. To give you some sort of context, and we talk about how the industry evolves. When I joined the company 25 years ago, we were turning over 250 million. The industry has demanded that we grow and create a decent business. The construction part of that group, which is the build part, the bit I belong to, we turn over just under £1 billion a year. Don't let those stats put you off getting in contact with us, because essentially, that's across the whole country. We're still a family-owned business with family values, and the family do put us under an awful lot of pressure to make sure that we do good for society. So if there's a way that we can help your business to get themselves into a position where you can work for us or any of the other main contractors or do anything else, then we'd like to find a way in which we could help. Thank you, Nick. Some of our stats, there's a lot going on in industry at the moment around diversity and inclusion. We employ 3,500 to 4,000 people across the country. Our LGBT stats are at the moment are at 1.2%, BAM at 12.4%. So we recognise where we are today. We also recognise we've got an awful lot more to do. So in terms of our aspirations and where we want to be, construction industry, we'd like to see 40% of our workforce being female. We'd like 20% to be BAME, LGBTQ at 5%, and disability at 3%. There's some of those numbers don't feel high, but actually we think where the starting point is for the construction industry, and then actually it's quite aspirational. And we'd like to see, in terms of our new starters, looking at 50% intake to be female and 5% of new recruits to be career returners. There is a massive interest in the market at the moment in getting building done. Our forward order book across the whole country, it just feels like somebody's taken a champagne cork out and workflow has just gone boom. There is going to be such a demand for people and materials at the moment. But it's a really exciting place to be. And I say with British Land and what's on offer at Canada Water, there is no better place to be in London at the moment than being part of this scheme.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm Nick Hamlin, Supply Chain Manager for Waits. Not quite as long as Jim, but I've been here 15 years, and likewise, it's a fantastic place to work. Just sort of following on from the Galdris presentation and talking a little bit around the supply chain requirements that we have. Often smaller businesses or any business can see working with main contractors as quite difficult, quite process driven. We're very much about trying to make that journey as easy as possible and support businesses that want to work with us, aligned businesses that want to work with us on that journey and getting them to site. But that doesn't mean we don't have minimum requirements and standards. And I'll just take you through some of the due diligence that we do, just to give you a flavour of the things that we'll be looking at. And again, similar to the earlier presentation. As a business, and in the bottom right, you can see Construction Line Gold. Construction Line is our base PQQ evaluation process, if you like. And as a business, we look for our supply chain to hold gold as a minimum. In addition to that, there are numerous other checks and balances that we do, from the credit check, for example, Dun & Bradstreet. Obviously, we check in with the Health and Safety Executive, the Environment Agency, and other organisations. Jim's talked about people and the growing market that we've got and the need for people going forward. So the importance of checking the people that are going to be working on our sites is massively important. And of course, experience, knowledge, references play a big part in where we go and how we select our supply chain. So I think that today, when we talked about what we were going to talk about, we wanted to really get across that we're not difficult to work with. We're here to help you with your journey of working with us at Waits, but obviously with British Land at Canada Water to fulfil their requirements and drivers. And quite simply, and at the end, there's some contact details at the end, we can help. And whether that's a simple helping businesses understand the importance of a credit check and understanding what their score is, or helping them with understanding what a quality plan might look like and what they've got and how it does or doesn't fit with us and what they need to do to bring it up to the levels that we expect. We can help with that. We're not just going to turn people away because they can't meet the standards that we expect. This is a journey. We are busy. It's going to get busier in the UK, and we need you along with us.
Sorry about that, guys. So as Nick said, you know, I'm very conscious when we put these kind of slides up, not to frighten people off and think, oh, I've got this loads of administration, all this kind of stuff to do. You know, by the very nature of contracting, building sites are dangerous places. We do have legal obligations that we have to fulfill. We do have contractual obligations that we do have to fill. But in addition to that, we also have moral obligations that we have to fulfill. So it's very important for us that the behaviours part of that fits in, and that we, you know, I've got a moral obligation to make sure that any contractors that work on my project have the ability to earn money. I have the moral obligation to make sure that the people they're working next to have the same values and ethos with regards to safety and workmanship. So it makes it sound complicated. Depending on the size of your company, and at the moment I don't know the sort of demographic of the people that have attended this call, but we'll have a look at that afterwards. The object here is we would like to find a way of helping you on that journey to get to the point where you're in a position that you can, you know, take a job working for a main contractor on one of the projects at Canada Water, or at least give you enough information where you can decide for yourself whether you want to or not. But that's what we're here to do. We you know, let's get some open dialogue and see where we can take it and how we can help you on that journey. Next slide, Nick.
So in terms of the opportunities, obviously there's going to be a massive construction project, and there's lots of building, superstructure, substructure, and the fabric that goes with it. But it's not just about that. And we as a business, and I suppose ultimately, yes, this is a British Land, Canada Water presentation, but we do have other customers and projects that require support, and will continue to be that way. So whether you're a builder, a plumber, an electrician, a plasterer, absolutely we're interested. But the support services that go with it, whether that's somebody providing photocopiers or bottled water or things like that help our sites run smoothly, right the way through to the logistics and waste, how we get materials to site, how we store it, how we keep them tidy. All of these things, we have opportunity for you as our supply chain. And just something I'd like to point out there, Jim touched on some of the big numbers that we have in terms of a business. We have an existing supply chain, many of which have worked with us for a long period of time, and are completely aligned to our approach and to creating opportunities for new businesses, people, individuals, whether that's through some of the examples given earlier, mentoring, training, apprenticeships, etc., etc. So just like to say that the thing here is that the opportunities don't just lie with us directly, but we do have a supply chain that are on this journey with us, and we can also look to create opportunity for you through them, with us, and the client at the end.
So I'm conscious of time. I feel like we've used more of our time. So our social values is, it's about creating opportunities, inclusive employment, working together, and helping those come on the journey with us. The key one there really for me on the top right is support and scale and helping. We care, we share. We've kind of gone through that. But yeah, let's see what you've got to offer, and let's see how we can find a way of making that fit within the opportunity that is Canada Water. I'm Jim Watts. Nick Hamley, we just spoke about, our email contacts are there. So
point them in my direction.
Nick spends more time behind the computer than I do, so he's probably your first point of contact. But by all means, don't be shy in coming forward. That's from us. Thank you very much. We're just trying to get off the screen now.
There you go. I'll stop sharing that for you. Thank you both so much. Could I invite John? Could I invite you all to join on screen? Just because we've got a few questions, and it'd be great to join you. Thanks, Eleanor. John, if you'd like to join us, perfect. And then great, fantastic. Thank you all so much. So I have a few questions for you, if that's okay. And a question for John and Waite's colleagues. What percentage of companies do you work with who are classed as SMEs, roughly? John, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, so for us, I'd say SME, like I'd be thinking 20 to 25% would be some of our SME percentages of what we work with. Like a lot of our projects, they do work across multiple different areas, and we do find that throughout London, if we're over in West London, we do try and work with someone who is from that area, instead of having sustainability-wise material movement, trying to get people inside the local area is so much better for us. So I'd say 15 to 20%. I don't have the exact figure to hand,
Thank you. Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussion around how you define an SME. In the first place, if you take some of the European standards, it can take a business up to, I think, £20 million and numbers. So if you take that sort of approach, a lot of our supply chain, and bearing in mind we're quite a broad business, that have got a property services business, a fit out business that do small projects. The numbers probably 40-50%, something around those numbers. I think the ambition at Canada Water is to, as John's just said, is to look for those opportunities and bring in those smaller businesses. And again, I go back to my point earlier around how we do that, whether that's directly employed by Waits or whether we can actually do that through our supply chain as well, to create those opportunities. Yeah, it's a subjective question in terms of how you interpret what an SME is, but yeah, it's in that sort of ballpark figure.
Thank you. Have you both worked with small companies who don't comply with all the criteria, but that you've awarded the contract to anyway? Do you have any examples that you'd like to share?
I'll go first. Yes, we do. Yes, we talked about our minimum standards being construction line gold, but clearly there are exceptions to all of this. We have due process that if we want to work with somebody that is absolutely right, either based on their skill set, their experience, the type of work that they're doing, but don't fulfill our minimum standards, we can, bypass is the wrong word, but we can use them and employ them. We just complete a more detailed level of diligence that requires perhaps a bit more investigation into the health and safety aspect of the work, depending on the complexity and the risk associated with it, and it gets signed off, and we can engage them. So it's absolutely not a case of you must have. It's what our aspiration is, and if we have people aspiring to reach construction line gold, Jim talked about the moral obligations. It helps us on that journey, but we do have flexibility and agility in working with supply chain outside of those constraints.
Cool, thank you. John?
Yeah, so also exactly as Nick said, we're the same. So for example, we do like our supply chain to have forest silver, but was it like forest bronze, but like if some of our supply chain don't meet a specific criteria, as we said, like there's not, as Nick was saying, it's not actually a loophole, but we can use other evidence to try and support them to make sure they actually pass it. So like it might be like, as Nick was saying, additional safety checks, additional this, additional that. You don't exactly need to have everything verbatim as per what we want. If we believe that you're capable of doing the work, and if we really want you, and if you, we can work together to come to a solution. Just because you do not have one particular aspect, we will not say no. You cannot come with us at all. Like we all try and work together and do the best that we can. So companies as a whole, the more we work together, the more of a team collaborative effort. It's just better for everybody.
That's such an important message, and like Eleanor, you must kind of like, you must feel that the importance of that message in the work that you do.
Yeah, definitely, and it's really nice to hear it sort of direct from you guys too. I think the sort of the intent of bringing others along on the journey, whether people are at that stage now or whether looking to the future, you know, with a 10 to 15 year development pipeline, and as I say, with the long-term partnership with our contractors, people like Gaudius and Waits that we envisage, there's, you know, if you're not there yet, that opportunity to kind of get there as part of the journey with all of us is really exciting.
That's super important, and super important in terms of sustainability as well. Question to you both: do you have an example you're particularly proud of where you've integrated an SME contractor into your supply chain? Nick, am I coming to you first?
Unmuting. Yes, and not just an SME, but also a social enterprise. We have a business called Tarim Services, who have grown with us over the last 5-6 years. Waits as a business have spent over 25 million pounds with social enterprises in that time. And Tarim started off as a very small builders cleaning company that have grown with us We've supported them, we've taken them on the journey, explained why they need certain things. And very recently they achieved preferred status with us. I was doing a BPIC event, Black Professionals in Construction event, a week or so ago, and Tarim was sitting alongside us to pass on that message. So again, going back to the last point, it's real evidence of not precluding or stopping people working for us. It's absolutely the opposite of finding a way, and it goes back to that guiding framework of how we can bring them on the journey. I think Jim's going to add something as well, please.
It's a great question, and it's made me think. You know, I've been building buildings in London for 35 years, and being an operations director, a lot of my role is about chasing people to do what they should have done, so which generally means I end up speaking to the owners of businesses. And I can't tell you, if you can imagine that we've been operating in London for 130 years. And as I say, 25 years ago, we were turning over 250 million. Now we're turning, as a construction business, we're turning over $1 billion. The amount of companies that I've talked to say, Jim, we will not let you down. I did my first job for Waits. Yeah, but those in growing, just the sheer, almost by default, from growing from 25 million to $1 billion, the amount of businesses that have come with us on that journey. You know, it's the partnership arrangement, whether it be formal or informal, is so much better for business than the purely transitional arrangement. We're not here to buy the cheapest. We're here to get the best result for everybody, because that's what we believe is sustainable for business and for our own company. So yeah, it's you know, every 2 weeks somebody says to me, Jim, I'll work with Waits 1952 or whatever. It's you know, and to be fair, it's why we have lasted as a construction business for 130 years. I'll stop now because I could talk forever.
Thank you. Very, very impressive response. John, I'll come over to you.
Yes, yeah, so again, like similar to us, even like there yesterday. So I'm based up in head office, and sometimes our printing needs and stuff like that. Like about 9-10 years ago, there was a small little one-man band just around the corner from where the head office is. And throughout, initially we started using him, we worked with him a lot. And now, 9-10 years later, he's after growing into more of, he's after opening up his third shop, all infield based and stuff like that. Obviously, not saying that we as a company had something to do with it, but recognize that someone as a one-man operation, it's not limiting. It doesn't, as long as somebody can perform the duty, irrespective of size, this, that, we are very happy to work with them. And also as well, as we are moving towards the whole carbon neutral by 2035, what we find is that now when we are procuring our supply chain for any of our projects, we are very wary of proximity to our site and distances to travel. So like, as we try to achieve carbon neutrality, we try and reduce the mileage as much as we can for material deliveries and so on and so forth. So there's no point working with a large company up in Birmingham, dropping you steel, for example, and you can get a very similar product down the road in King's Cross or something like that, for example. So that sort of things like that.
Is that sense of consideration across, you know, do you think that that's something that a lot of companies need to take on board more in terms of how they function?
I mean, I think that every company probably does this at the moment, like we say, because like now it's becoming so key, so critical. Carbon sustainability, it's one of our leading KPIs amongst many others. So like at every stage of a project, we need to consider about our commitment to the environment. And like the best way to commit to the environment is by carefully planning and selecting supply chain in, like as the guys were saying, moral obligations to do something morally, so that any decision we make is not based purely on cost, on this, on everything. It's about what is best for the wider community and the project as a whole.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually want to touch on that kind of like that moral obligation. And wait, it was so interesting that you mentioned the importance of diversity. Obviously, that's part of the Sustainable Development Goals as well. Is kind of that obligation to people. Is that something that the industry needs to focus on more as well? I thought your stats were super interesting.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, there's the industry is going through a quiet revolution. There's absolutely no about it. I don't know why we were so male dominated for so many years. I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and I said to her, "What about getting a job at a construction?" She laughed and walked away. You know, the industry has given me a great living. You know, it really has, and the opportunities in the industry are fantastic. And the truth is, it makes it's absolutely no difference about what sex you are, or what colour you are, or anything. It's just a complete and utter nonsense. There is no logic behind it. And actually, in an industry that it's so challenging and it demands so much from people and offers so much reward, we need to attract the best people from society. Yeah, and that's the only thing that should be the criteria. Yeah, who are the best people for the job? Yeah, and that's where we've got to go. So it's unfortunately a kind of more senior. Generally, people that are more senior are older in age. Older in age has the experience to get the job. So where we concentrate a lot of our efforts is with the trainees that we bring into the business, and trying to get better diversity at that level with a view of getting them into our next generation of leaders. And it's at the moment we see some real prospects and some real hope with those youngsters that are coming through. But absolutely, I look back at 35 years ago with despair and just can't think from the logic of where our heads were when we were just employing people that looked and sounded like us. So yes, we've got to do it, and it's a challenge because we're not very good at advertising what opportunities are available within the construction industry. And to the outside world, the construction industry, I believe, think that they are just a bunch of random tradesmen that turn up on a site and do stuff. But we've got a whole different world out there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. We've got a School of Built Environment and Architecture, and it's a really diverse school. But I didn't expect that to pop up in your presentation. And so it was a really kind of like, it was a pleasant surprise for me as someone that's disconnected from the construction industry, but probably sees that kind of like stereotype that is a male industry. Oh, sorry, it's cracking a little bit. Does anyone else want to come in there? Eleanor, I mean, would you like to come in there?
Yes. I mean, I don't think I have much more to add apart from the fact that we obviously share Waits' ambitions, and it's great. It's really heartening from both my role and as a business to hear colleagues talking in that way. I think throughout the Canada Water Masterplan, I know we're talking specifically about business here, but certainly in terms of employment, which Waits are a big part of too, that diversity and looking at pipeline and working with partners like yourselves and really looking strategically at how such a long-term project we can get people early on interested in the careers that are available, not just on site, but in HQ and in ancillary services, from all the diversity that Southwark represents is kind of crucial to our thinking. And by working with people like Gowdress and Waits, and those community and skills plans that I mentioned, we're sort of shaping our thinking on that. And I think probably it's a good point as well to give a bit of a shout out to Gowdress, who they've had a head start from everybody else, but they've been on site for the last nearly a year, I guess. And in that time, I've got 5 local residents who were previously unemployed into work, including one local young person who's only 17 who I think looks over the site, who's now doing an apprenticeship with them. So, this is kind of, we're small scale at the moment, but with these guys, as well as that local business picture and that local employment picture, there's a real opportunity there. So yeah, thanks, Gowdress.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Moving on, what opportunities exist for the supply of ancillary services such as cleaning and catering? And John, we'll come to you first.
So say in terms of us cleaning and catering, so us in terms of at the moment we have sort of a temporary site set up where we have just cabins inside in the office. So cleaning wise, that's done by we've hired in 2 people. One is local, I believe, but that's so say that's, or we don't have much cleaning requirements within our project at the moment at Canada Water. Like as things grow, as our offices grow, we get more people employed, then there might be more availability. Then in terms of catering, currently at the moment, until accommodation grows further down the line, we don't really have anything like that on site at the moment. But as things grow, then there will be a cafeteria, there'll be this, there'll be that, and then things will go from there.
Perfect, thank you. Waits?
Yeah, from our perspective, so listen, an army marches on its stomach, and builders do love a good breakfast. So absolutely, we will have a decent sized canteen. We will probably employ on the project, it will probably peak at around 500 people. So absolutely, if I could find a local business that could satisfy us, that they could do that, then I'd be absolutely delighted, and it'd be a great place to start. So if you're a catering company out there that are interested in running a site canteen and you feel they have the necessary qualifications, then get in touch with Nick and we'll see what we can do. In terms of cleaning, we do, our staff do need a lot of cleaning behind. As I told before, they're predominantly male at the moment, but we're working on it. So yes, we do need some cleaning of the offices, and then there's what we call the builders clean at the end of the job. Now, generally speaking, because we like the comfort of being reliant on the cleaners that we know, but it would be good to be able to see if we can supplement that with some local labour. So again, if you're a cleaning company that are looking for some work, get in hold of Nick and we'll see what way we can do to take that forward.
Thank you all. And final question from me before I hand over to Eleanor to close. Is there a main mistake that companies make when tendering for contracts?
The biggest mistake.
Getting a price wrong. Oh.
Who's going first? Go on then.
Sorry, myself and Nick having to do a shuffle with the headphone.
No
the biggest mistake companies make is overselling.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't oversell yourself on what you can do. It's the fastest route to financial ruin. Come in, be honest about who you are, what you can offer, what you think you can offer, and then see what we can do in a way of taking you on that journey.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, again, just to reiterate, that's probably the most important thing you could ever do. Whenever you're in initial talks with a company, just to be honest. There's no point lying, trying to oversell yourself. We've delivered this, we've delivered that. Through our checks, we will determine whether you actually have done it or not. So you're not only wasting your time, you're wasting our time as well. So it's just be as honest as you possibly can, and then through that, then together we can find some way to work together. Because overselling yourself is the worst you could possibly do in this industry, because from the get-go, people just lose faith in you, and it starts off the relationship in a very bad way. So just being honest, working together collaboratively is just a way to go move forward with everything, I believe.
Thank you. Waits, would you like to come back in?
Yeah, just like to kind of add to that. It's about and hopefully the message has come across. It's about clarity of what we want and what we expect, and understanding it. So for the message for me to the supply chain is, if you're unsure, ask the question, put your hand up and ask, call it early, however you want to describe it. And as Jim said, don't go off piste and oversell, but don't be afraid to ask, well, I think this is what you want. Have I got it right? We're here to help, and from that dialogue, and when you start to increase that engagement and networking, you build relationships. We talked about the length of some of the relationships that we have, and from that come the clever ideas, the different ways of doing things, making sure that we can achieve this and do that, and deliver against our requirements and more importantly our customers' requirements. So yeah, my parting shot or parting message is, don't be afraid to ask.
And that's a great parting message. Thank you all, John, Jim, and Nick, for answering the questions and for your presentations. Eleanor, I'd like to hand over to you for closing.
Thank you, Neil. Pardon me. Well, yeah, thank you. Well, firstly, I'd really like to say thank you to you, Neil, for organising this and comparing it so professionally. It's been fantastic, and I've learned a lot from our own webinars from you, and thank you to John and Nick as well for your presentations. I feel, yeah, it's, as I said, probably has come across in all of the conversations. This is very much the beginning of a journey. We're just kind of getting on and trying to get on site. We'll be here for the long term as British Land, and we hope these guys will be too. We fully anticipate. And we'd really like to hear from businesses, whether you're watching this live now or watching this sort of on repeat, because we'll share this out. We'd really like to hear from you about what you'd like to hear about, what would be useful information, and how we can really bring together these guys that we have on site and yourselves in the local community to be part of that future over the next 10 to 15 years, and then the 500 years beyond that. So so yeah, look forward to doing more of these, and thanks again, LSVU, for supporting.
Very welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.